I know that your brothers were
The
volunteers.
week before the rising, I had been over at Croydon Park with my brothers. They were Scissor Army, and they used to drill with wooden rifles. Well, I remember that. And then on the Easter, I'm coming back now to the Easter Monday. We were playing in the street where I lived in Grant's Row off of Mount Street. And somebody came up to where we were playing and said, "Do you know there's a whole lot of men gone into Boland's Mill with guns?" And I said, remember after seeing the lads drilling with the wooden rifles, I said, "No, they're not guns, they're wooden. I was trying to put them off that I knew it all. And he said, no, he said, they're not, they're right, they're real guns. And so a few of us then went down from our house, it was very near Boland's Mill. We had to just go down and turn around a bit. And when I went up along to the thing, there was two men standing opposite, outside of Boland's side gate, opposite where there was a public house called Scallions. Mm-hmm. And one man was in full uniform, the other man was a civilian. And the doors of the public house, this always was on my mind, because the doors of the public house opened. And when it opened, there were two British soldiers that I think everyone knew. There were two recruit sergeants that used to be in Pearse Street. Well, it wasn't Pearse Street then, it was Brunswick Street. And they were coming and they had their arms wrapped around one another singing. And the man in the civilian clothes lifted his rifle. And we were watching this. And the man in the uniform put his rifle down like that. And we could only hear about him saying about him being drunk. But the man in the uniform, who I didn't know at the time, was De Valera. I found that out later. So we all went back anyhow.
De Valera had saved the lives of the two recruiting sergeants.
Yes. Well, he saved them because I think they were drunk.
Sure.
And anyhow, then after all, I went back where we were living. At the top of our street, of our row, was a soldier's home. And their gardens came back, down the back, opposite our house. And there was a lot of confusion going on, a bit of battle on Easter, on the bridge. My father had gone up. This
is Mount Street?
Mount Street.
Yeah.
The battle was going on up there. And then we couldn't get out. Well, I was one of the people that was terrified in the family that I wouldn't cross the door. I'm telling you that because I want to tell you after what happened. But anyhow, we were in the house and the battle was going on, the fighting and the shooting, and we couldn't get out of where we lived because we were going out of food. We couldn't get out even to loot. We were caught in between the two ends in where we lived. But there was my two brothers were two of the people that were in the hour that they were counteracted. And they were waiting to be called out as, I suppose they were looking at people like that as the rear guard. And my brother came in then, this was going on now to the end of the week I'm talking about. Sure. All the business that went on between I'm not going into. But my brother came down to see my other brother hear any word. And one of the other Southern Army lads had called in because they used to drill under Captain White out in Croydon Park. That's where they were trained. Well, anyhow, that morning my auntie had come up to tell my father that his cousin had been shot dead, a girl, by a British sniper from Sir Patrick Dun's Hospital, the roof. My father was getting ready to go down to his relations when I think, we don't know what the reason of this was for, but my father was getting ready and suddenly he said, "My God, the soldiers is all lying on the roof opposite here, on the soldiers, they belong to the soldiers' home." Goodness. And he said, "They couldn't possibly miss this house if they opened fire." He said, "We all better get out of here and go into somewhere else, because we only had the flat at the top of the house." And when that happened, he hadn't said the word till it was hell. The machine guns were turned on the house. My brother fell. I saw all the blood all over the place, and then I heard my father saying to my mother, "Lizzie, I'm hit too." And he fell. And then I'd one boot on and one boot off. And I jumped up and I run out towards the hall door, I opened it anyhow, and I dashed across the street to go down to Hollis Street Hospital. That was the nearest to us. And the priest came up. I know a man got a hold of me and put me into Goff's stables. They were at the back of where I was running down. And the table, and Father Fleming, the priest that came with the ambulance men, the doctors, begged them. I heard one of the men saying, the priest is on his knees up to them with a white flag to stop firing until they took the wounded out of the house. Well, then they were taken out, anyhow, and my father died in the hospital, but my brother was taken to St. Vincent's. He lived for 2 years. But what I want to say, I don't know if everybody knows this, on the Sunday when after the surrender, a nurse that we knew, a friend of ours, came running down to say she was looking for where was Mrs. Jordan. That was my mother. Where is Mrs. Jordan? Where did they stay in? We were after being taken out of the house, you see, for to live with me. My aunt took us in, and he said she said send somebody up quick because they're taking the bodies out of Hollis Street Hospital, the military, in a lorry. So my uncle went up, and the bodies were there was other bodies along with my father and a woman and somebody else was getting put into the lorry. And they took the lorry to Glasnevin Cemetery on the left-hand side, and they had a trench dug, and all them bodies, there was nearly 100 bodies thrown into that trench. And they were just covered up. My father was bathed in his trousers and shorts, the way he was starting to get ready to go out.
The way he fell.
And all these people. And then, well, I was, as I say, I was 10-year-old then. I was 12-year-old. Mm-hmm. And then we were all, well, I can't start to explain to you.
No. But it's not surprising, Margaret, that 75 years later those memories are still very fresh indeed.
Very fresh in my mind, because afterwards I went into the whole Irish movement. I went into the Clanagale Girls. I was in the Clanagale Girls then all the time until I was old enough to go into Common Amon. And then I went to, I was staying in a safe house with Michael Kerr and Michael Collins was, and I got mixed up in them all like that. I knew them all.